Right. Cool. Hi, I'm Jack, back again with another video talking about the MPC-1. What we're talking about today are actually wavetables. Now, you might have heard the term wavetables before, but I think it actually gets applied in a really fun, unique way on the MPC-1. So let's take a look at that. Now, what you're gonna need is you're gonna need some tables of waveforms. That's what wavetables are. Now, I've got one in the description down below. Go ahead and check that out, give it a download. Now, I already have that loaded up on my MPC, so we're gonna get to it. Now that you've got your new program loaded up, what you're gonna do is you're gonna open up an unused track. You're gonna go to your key group, right? That's the one that looks like it's got piano keys on it. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna browse through that folder where we downloaded all of our waveforms. Let's just go to this AKWF folder and we're gonna look through these and see something that might interest us, right? So let's start completely fresh. I'm gonna go to one of these unknown folders. And as you can see here, when we scroll through, there's a ton of tiny little blips in here, right? Each of those are a single waveform that you can then create sounds with. So now that you found a folder you're interested in, you're gonna back up one, you're gonna find that folder, you're gonna hit Shift, and you're gonna hit Load All. It's then gonna load everything that's in that folder for use in your program. So with here, we have our track 4, which is the key group program. Let's go to Program Edit. We're gonna go to Samples, and this is where all the fun begins. So let's, as you can see here, we've got 4 separate layers. We're just going to start with layer 1, and we're going to scroll through these sounds and see what sounds good to us as like a bass, right? So that one's fun. I like that. That's going to be our bass. Now, just for fun, let's add a second layer. You can add up to 4 layers of these. You can find some really complex, intricate sounds by doing that. Just to show you what we're doing now, though, I'm just going to layer 2. So we've got our first layer. Sounds like that. Now what we're going to do is scroll through here, and it's going to play both at the same time, creating a different sound. I like this. I think that's fun. So now that we found the sound that we like, I like to come back to the Master tab, and I'm going to take the key group polyphony down to mono. That makes it a lot easier to appreciate your sound while you're developing it. You can always go poly later. Now let's go back to the Samples tab. The first thing you can do is just reverse the waves to see if it sounds a little bit different. So that's what we're working with now. That doesn't really do much. Let's try the other one. So not much there. We can actually also play with the tuning. So let's go to the semi. All right, that actually creates a little texture in there. Let's go to layer 2, see if we can play around here. All right, so we've got an interesting bass here. What I think is interesting is going to levels. And you can actually kind of fade some of these more into the background of the sound and see how that develops. Also later on, when you're playing with a little bit more advanced parts of this wavetables, you can always come back here and take one of the waveforms completely out and see what it sounds like alone, right? We can do that for the same. But what I think is interesting here is just before we get into the intricate parts of using these wavetables, let's see the balance we like between the two. I'm liking that, so I'm going to back the first one up a little bit. And then you can actually mess with the width as well, so you can pan different parts of this sound. So you can pan these in different directions just to give the sound a little bit more width. That's something else you can do. We can also mess with the offset. You see how this is pretty flat? But if I bring the step back a little bit, it almost sounds like I'm hitting a piano key. So we're going to back that up a little bit. You can mess with this. I wouldn't do that yet. Let's go ahead and go to our envelope. We're going to play a little bit here. The amp envelope is a good one because it's going to kind of let you form what you want a little bit better. So we can sit here at a blank amp envelope. Or what we can do is we can actually back the attack up. If we then lower the sustain, and then we're gonna increase the delay. Actually, let's bring that down. Let's bring the sustain up, and we're gonna have a release on here. Right, a little bit more fun there. I'm gonna back the release up a little bit, and what we can create here is almost like a pad, right? Let's slow that down. Okay, so we've done that. We're actually going to stay in this envelope section. We're going to play with the filter a bit. What I'm going here is maybe a little bit more of a deeper sound, so I'm actually going to put a low pass on here. Alright, for more character, you can go to the LFO. You can put some of that in there too. I like to sync it, so let's do a dotted quarter note, and we're going to have that affect the pitch just a little bit. We're going to have it affect the amp as well, but a little bit more. Make that a little bit quicker. There we go. So if we turn sync off, we can play with the rate. I think that's pretty fun. We're going to play with that. Let's go ahead. We can actually add a little bit of portmanteau. So let's do that. Right, so that's with some. We can turn that off. Right, and it's more immediate. I'm going to leave it 20. I think that's pretty fun. By the way, you'll note I have this stuck on full level. We can play with the velocity sensitivity later. I think that's a bit too much to add on immediately. And to make sure that what you're creating is really what you're going to get, it's best to just leave that on full level for the design part of this process. So we're going to go to effects, and we're going to add a few things here. So I've got my send set up. Let's see what this sounds like with some reverb. Cool. And actually that LFO is a bit much right now, so let's either turn that way up. I like that way up, so let's leave that. I was going to turn it off if not, and then maybe add it on after I get the sound where I want it. But that's pretty fun. We're going to leave that on there. Now, you can actually have a lot of fun with these effects. Let's go to harmonic, for example. I like to go to the talk box because you can add a lot of interest there. That's a pretty fun one. Now for the lower octaves, that's actually a really fun one, huh? I'll give you a better idea. So we're going to do two things. Go to your effect 4, and we're actually going to add on a dynamic part. We're going to do a limiter because we don't want this to be peaking. And so we're going to put a limiter on there, and let's see what we're dealing with. All right, not bad. So let's just leave it there. We just don't want it to be going over our 0 mark. Otherwise, things just start sounding weird and distorted. So we've got our talk box on there. Now, actually, if we decrease our LFO, let's see what that does. That's fun. Now, I want to get an idea of what this might do with poly. Now, you got to be careful with poly, and I'll show you why. If we're looking here at our levels, right, we're being reasonable, but let's say we wanted to do some crazy pad. You see how that got really close to 0? That's with our limiter. So let's go back to our limiter, and we'll play here a little bit. I'm just going to start smashing on the tabs because I'm really trying to crank this up. Let's go to the initial, and I'm going to say the ceiling needs to be a little bit lower. All right, and that's going to stop us from really going over our levels. So we've got our limiter, we've got our talk box. Let's add a few more interesting things on here. I think the diode clip, distortion, really a lot of these are going to be fun when you're doing wavetables. The sky's the limit. You're just starting with the waveforms, so do whatever you want to them. It's going to sound fun. Let's try air lo-fi. See what we can get here. Ooh. That's a bit too much. Let's turn that clip down. That's pretty good. I'm going to load these up because I think why not, honestly, with something like this. So you can actually go to your filters. You can do a filter gate. That can be a little bit fun with these, so let's do that. You get more atmospheric when you do that, as you can tell. Now this works especially well if you're going to have this on poly, so let's see what that's like. Yeah, so you see how that can be fun. Once again, not really what I'm going for, so I'm going to delete that. What I was going to say is you can actually go to the air kill EQ if you want to make this, let's say, more of a bass. Let's just turn those highs off. You can even turn the mids off if you're looking for more of a subby sort of deal. Right, so that's just letting the low end through. Alternatively, if you want to make something that's more of a lead, maybe doesn't really mess with your bass or your low end too much, well, let's turn the low end off. You can even turn the mid off. See how that's kind of floating way up there on the top? That might be a bit much. You can go to your frequencies and you can actually let a little bit more through. I'm gonna honestly turn the high off because I'm looking for something a little bit lower here. So we've got that set up pretty well. That's pretty fun. Let's go to our LFO. And just for fun again, let's play with that rate. All right, so that's a pretty fun one there. We've made ourselves one. Let's go ahead and have some fun, make another one. Now, we can leave that here. We're going to name this first one. So that's our first wavetable synth. Let's go ahead and create another key group here, and we can do it again. So we'll go into samples once again. Let's go to the sample. Let's find something. You know, let's not even hit a button until we see something that looks interesting. What I'm looking for is something with a little bit more grit now. So I'm going to find something like this. You notice how this starts off not on 0 and ends on the opposite side. That means that when we hit a key here, it's going to be relatively harsh. See, it's kind of like that popping sound you get when you're doing sample-based beats. It's because you're not finding those 0 points. Well, we build that in here for a little bit more of a harsh sound. So I might use this for kind of a growly bass or maybe a gritty lead. So let's go ahead and make that. We'll start by making an interesting lead, and we'll see if it also works on the bass side of things. So let's see what plays well with this. I like that. We're going to get more complex with this one and add multiple or more than 2 layers. Why not? Let's add all the layers. I like that one, so we'll play with these 4. Now, so you can see sometimes reversing makes a pretty significant difference, so that's what it looks like with layer 2 not reversed if we were to reverse it. You can also shorten these up, and that's going to be That's going to add some really strange things to these. A lot of the time on the higher end, because essentially what's happening is this one is cycling twice every time the first one cycles, and so that ends up being a higher pitch. But we're not going to do that for this. Let's just keep it more simple. So we're going to play around. Let's play with the tuning. That's got a lot of depth now, and part of that is because I've lowered the octave so much on some and raised it on the other that we're spanning the range a little bit more, so this will be more complex. Sometimes it might be a little bit harder to build into a beat, but that's why you have EQ, so you can fix that later. Cut out the high end if it's gonna live in the low end of your song. Cut out the low end if it's gonna be something that's kind of raised up in the song, right? Maybe a lead, maybe a pad. Cool. All right, so we've done that. Now we're gonna play with our levels. You see how when we get rid of that first one, the one that's kind of bringing a lot of the growl into the sound, how that softens up a lot when we bring it back in, right? I like that growl, so I'm going to keep that. All right, let's play with our envelopes. Once again, we're going to want to make the key group mono when we're playing with our sounds. Once you get the release to around 80 is when you're going to start hearing a big difference. So if you really want that tail, then just go straight to 80 and then play from there. All right, so that's the amp. Let's see if we can get some filters on here. Honestly, sometimes the special ones on the end here, for example, MPC, can be a lot of fun. I like what that does, but I actually wanted to show up a little bit after. So what I like to do here is I will get my cue links to the filter envelope and then I'll tap on depth. That way these four knobs will play with the envelope and then this one will change the depth. So let's put the depth up a little bit. Now I want it to start off strong and then pretty quickly drop off so that I can get the part that we cut off back. All right, we'll play with the pitch a little bit on this, see what happens. Now, I'll note with the semitones on these, that's not really all that helpful because all you're doing is shifting things around in the bank. Like for example, if we were to hit this pad and then shift this up 12, then that's the same thing. So that's kind of a waste of your time. What I would do is play with the fine. I do like that down a little bit, and so we'll keep that there. Cool. So we're going to actually leave LFO and portmanteau behind for a second. Let's go straight to the effects. And let's add some fun stuff. So let's go dynamic. We'll do transient shaper. So that's going to actually give this nice ramping effect at the beginning of the sound, but it makes it way too loud and harsh. So we're going to go to our last effect and we're going to put that limiter back on. All right, so we've done that. Let's add something else here. So let's go to our modulation. Let's put an ensemble on here. So this is actually turning into something interesting, maybe I'm thinking maybe pad or lead wise. And so what might be fun is actually going to the granulator and playing around there. So let's go ahead and do that. It adds a lot of texture to the sound, especially at the end. I think that's very interesting. Let's see what happens on lower octaves. Great. I think that... Ooh! That's awfully pretty. Nice. It's almost like a screeching string instrument, right? Cool. All right, so we'll go to LFO here and see what we can do. Let's go ahead and assign this to Pan. That will be interesting, not too hard, and just a touch of pitch. I turn this down to half level because I think it is a little bit too intense, so we'll do it this way. If we go back to our omp envelope and turn that down, see how we got something a little bit more plucky? If we turn that all the way up, that's interesting. This will be even better if we do poly, then it's almost a pad. So if we go back to envelope, for this, I'm actually going to turn the decay just barely above 85, or just like 85, barely above 80. And then we'll do the same with the release. Let's turn that up to like 95. Now listen to this. Right, pretty interesting. So that's what we're doing with Wavetables. You're really just having fun on this program edit page. You're going to start off adding your layers, play with them a little bit, maybe even change how long they are. You can change the fine tuning, change the levels, right? Really have fun on this page, and you'll usually end up with something interesting. I'll go ahead and show you some other things that I've made with Wavetables, and you can get a general idea of how diverse they can be. Here's another example. Here's another example. Kind of like the Charlie Brown adults. Here's another example. Another example.